What's going on, Chris?
Jake, how are you?
I'm doing good, man.
Good.
I came in, I heard you got yourself a really fancy coral colony, not a frag.
We did.
You want to tell us what it is and what you know about it?
It's a reef raft Splice millipora, rainbow Splice millipora. And so it's a colony that one of my service customers bought at Reefstock from a company called Two Guys Corals, and it was a small, super expensive frag. And so we've been servicing this tank for the last, well, a year before then, but then the last 3 years. And they are going to be moving to Florida. And so I had to jump at the chance to pick up this super cool coral. So we've had it here at the shop about a week and a half or so, and just trying to learn and see what this coral's all about.
Now, when you say an expensive frag, this thing is kind of defining what that means in this moment, right? This is kind of like the most high-priced acro frag there is. What do these typically go for just a reasonable fragment?
You know, most of the time you see them online for about $1,200 for a fragment. And of course, those are good ones that have both colors inside the tissue. And as you can see from the colony, there's, you know, half of it turns one color and half turns the other.
All right, so let's take it back a little bit.
Sorry.
What is it that makes this coral so special? And explain what is happening to the best of your knowledge.
Yeah. So I believe it's a grafted millipora coral, and I think it came in from the wild, grafted with two different colors. And how that grows out and how it changes the colors in both sides, both the red and the yellowish green, is really interesting. How the proteins are being shared. It's just something you don't see. You can see bicolored millipora at times. You can see where it's a different color in the shade, but you don't see the definite change with the grafting of it.
Do you have any experience personally with these infected corals that show different colors?
You know, some, I don't know, we've been keeping the worldwide corals grafted Monty for years and years, but that, I believe it's a little bit different of a scenario than what we have here. And I think this is more something that comes in the wild, because you never see the green of a Monty, let's say a grafted Monty, turn yellowish pink or peach colored like this one is. So I think this one shares more of the proteins, and the zooxanthellae shares a lot more of it than other grafted ones that I've seen. But I really haven't had that many grafted pieces, acros especially, yeah. I don't think I've ever had a grafted acro before.
Yeah, the really interesting thing especially with the acros, is that the pigment can spread in just really unpredictable ways. And a lot of times the green or some color is usually dominant, so you kind of got to keep after it a little bit. You want to show us some of the frags you got?
Yeah, so the interesting part is that this coral right here is a fragment of this. And this was kept, both of these were kept inside the customer's tank, but it was on a frag rack pretty far away from the mother colony. Now, why is that color of green different than this color if this was cut from the same exact place? Could it be lighting? Possibly. They were, a good foot away from each other. But I believe that this red is bleeding off into that color, and it's causing this to be more of a yellowish, peachy color in a lot of ways.
It does have a little bit of an orange-ish quality to that green. I mean, that guy right there is just as green as can be. I'd totally just walk by that in any frag assortment. But yeah, this one's got a, I don't know, it's hard to, it doesn't really catch on camera, but you can kind of just see some of those colors trying to peek through at the tips or on random branches.
Yes, and that's what like I said, I've been looking at it for a while, but I never had a really good chance to get a close-up look like we have here. And so, yeah, just kind of learning to see what this coral's going to do, moving forward. And of course, we'll have to put it in different conditions and different lighting, and see if the green comes back, or if it stays that peachy yellowish color. Mm-hmm. Very, very interesting.
So you maintained this aquarium for a while. What were the conditions under which it was kept?
So this coral was grown under, we had really good flow. We had pretty stable conditions through the use of dosing pumps. We had 4 AI, excuse me, 32 lights, and then we had 4 Blue Plus ATI T5 bulbs on them.
Oh wow, you have the T5 LED hybrid going on.
Yep. All that being said, because I think this client was kind of thinking about getting out of the hobby for quite some time, we hadn't changed those T5 bulbs for probably 18 months. So I don't know what would the useful life after being run for 10 hours a day the T5s were doing, or if they were giving off some kind of wavelength that was causing some of these changes. I don't know that, but I knew that the T5 bulbs needed to be changed.
Did you ever measure the par, or can you estimate?
I would probably estimate, since we had thenes in that tank that were on that top level, we had mushrooms pretty much at the same. So I would say we were probably in the 2 to 250 range of where this was kept.
But it was a really nice blanket of light, hence the awesome growth of this thing. So I've seen plenty of rainbow splice mini colonies, and we're like 2 or 3 frags stuck together. So when I heard that you had a whole colony to look at and examine, I rushed over here as fast as I could. I'm like, all right, let's do a little expose on this thing. And the first thing that strikes me is when you see frags, you give the coral some benefit or whatever, that it's going to grow into whatever it's supposed to be. But seeing it grown out, man, this coral does not exactly scream Millipora. It's not super classic Millipora. Like you have some right here with the scales and a really powerful axial tip, but and they're really shaggy. But this doesn't really scream Millipora in my book. What do you think?
It's strange that the growth is very dense. I mean, we did have it, in a lot of flow. There was an MP40 pretty much going right on top of this. And of course, girth, where no coral could even get close to touching it because it was such a special coral. So I think it had a lot of flow, but it's very dense. It's one of the most dense millies that I've ever seen grow like that. And after a year, it's sometimes millies will table out. And this one really just kind of grew into a big bush. It's got if we lifted up the colony, it has fairly good stock, probably a little bit bigger than a quarter as far as thick. So maybe it was a subject of having a lot of flow on it, so it grew a big stalk and really dense branches. But yeah, it's
the coralites don't scream Millipora, the shape doesn't, and it's in that neighborhood. It's not like it's just completely off, right? But it's pretty shaggy. It just doesn't have that same signature look of a classic Acropora Millipora. Still beautiful, beautiful colony though.
Yeah.
So tell me what you plan to do with this coral.
So I think that the thing I'm most excited for is to I'm going to make a few frags, and I'm going to get them into a bunch of different tanks. Of course, you have to take one and grow it, and so we can compare notes. But I need to get it into a few tanks, and then I will get down the center of it and get some of those really primo grafted ones that you can see that the line of color is between the green and the red. So eventually, once I get it secured and growing for a little bit, then I'll definitely sell some frags. It's too cool of a coral not to get out there into a bunch of different tanks. Plus, I want to hear people's notes. What color did it turn? Did it go back to green? Did the red get more predominant than the green or yellow color? So that's kind of our plan for it right now.
Yeah, right now you kind of have just kind of a nice streak in the colony, and some of the branches show both colors. But it'll be really interesting to see if like the raspberry color takes over the green, or if the green will take over the pink. I'm sure there's a few people who've been growing them for a while who'll have some ideas, but I think the long-term game is to try to figure out how to get it both colors in every branch in a colony, and I think that'll be a really fun challenge.
Yeah, it'll be a lot of cutting and experimenting, and So I wish I had a picture of it when he originally bought it, because then we have it grown out, and this is untouched. It was not fragged up until about probably 4 months ago. And so if I can find a picture of the original piece, then I can see how much of it was green, how much of it was red. I know it was bicolor when he got it.
I know you already have some frags here in the shop, and Colorado locals are encouraged to come pick some up, and there'll be some viewers who will want to know how they can get a piece of rainbow splice. What's your thoughts for that? I mean, I know the coral's still really fresh in your possession.
Yeah, I think that we're, probably in a couple months, we'll have some good frags ready, some frags that are grown out and encrusted on, and I'll be able to make sure that the coral's really good and healthy. But I'd say 2 months we'll probably start looking at opening some up to the online market.
Okay.
I'm not in a hurry to frag it up and sell it all. I really like the coral, and I want to see where it's going to go. Was
this a coral that was on your hit list before you got it?
It was, yeah. And as a matter of fact, I kept asking them, hey, let me cut a piece and bring it back here to the shop, because doing maintenance for them, if it ever RTN'd or if it fell over or something like that, I would feel horrible if I couldn't replace it again. So yeah, the last 2 years I've been going, hey, let me cut a piece, let me cut a piece, let me cut a piece. Of course, like everybody, I want a piece that's not just all green or just not all red. I want a piece of both. And so now I'll be able to kind of dictate that and get some good pieces out of it.
I know that a lot of shops have a kind of like a special acro grow out section like you have here, but you truly have some really special corals. You also got this nice big colony of, you call it Battle Coral Space Laser?
Yep.
And then we have this unknown here, which is one of my favorites, is green with kind of purple tips, but it only has green polyps at the tip. I just think that's so freaking neat. And I know that'll be a nice fast grower and just really stand out from like normal purple pink tips.
Yeah. I wish I remember where I got that. Somebody brought me a frag of it, and then the tips started coming out. I'm like, hey, what is that thing? So I really like that.
Very cool. Well, thanks for your time. Do you have any kind of parting words about SPS in general or that coral strain?
Not really. I mean, especially this coral strain. I'm just really intrigued to see what it does. I think I've never had anything that's a true grafted acro, and so I'm excited for it.
Yeah, no, you're definitely starting on the deep end of the pool when it comes to multicolored Acropora specimens, and you got a lot of material to work with. So I'm excited that you're my local fish store, so I'll be able to come in and share notes and just check out on the progress. Thanks a lot for your time, Chris.
And, you bet.
And
thanks for coming by.
To get out of your hair on a day when the shop is closed for cleanup and maintenance. And looking forward to seeing how this video turns out.
Sounds great.